I call it Introduction to Drupal. My name's David Miller. Uh, in this presentation, I'm going to give the briefest of introductions on what Drupal actually is, how to install and configure it, and we'll actually configure a demo Drupal site. And this blue guy is the logo for Drupal, and Drupal is a misspelling of Drupal, a Dutch word meaning drop. So you can see it kind of looks like a drop of rain. Drupal runs well on the LAMP stack, Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. So I pasted him onto Tux's shoulders there. I was actually surprised that no one had made a blue Tux with a Drupal face. So if you're handy with vector graphics, that's a good thing to make. So why would you even want to use Drupal? Because of all the good stuff that you get with it. And the main thing that you get with Drupal, after all, it is called a content management system, is content management. You get basic CRUD, that's create, retrieve, update, and delete capabilities for your content. You create different content types. At its heart, Drupal is a content management system. You also get ways to theme that content and output it how you like. Another part of most content management systems is user management, and Drupal gives you a full suite of user management functions. In Drupal, users are assigned to roles, and roles can have any name that you give them, whatever makes sense for how you're arranging your website, and then you assign the users to the roles, and then they get the permissions that go along with that. The biggest selling point of Drupal is its extensibility. See, I've got Mr. Potato Head there because he's extendable. He has little holes that you can put in, little pre-made eyes and ears or whatever. And that's kind of analogous of how the module system for Drupal works. You write a module that employs a series of hook functions in PHP that actually get called at the appropriate time. So it's kind of like Drupal has all these little holes that you can put in your own stuff. Most of the time, we use modules that someone else has already written, and we're not really going to talk much about writing our own modules, but the Mr. Potato Head analogy is a pretty good way to think about how the module system works. And one of the best things about using a ready-made content management system is that you get maintenance to go along with it. If you roll your own site or you have someone build your own site, a year on down the road, you're going to want to change something, or you're going to discover a security vulnerability, and it's going to be hell to fix it because no one knows what's going on. But with a widely used content management system, there are other people checking it for security updates, for bugs, and Drupal has a pretty aggressive security auditing team that actually looks at the core, looks at the modules, and releases frequent security updates. Now, you may only want some of these components that I've listed up here. For instance, you may not want the content management part, and you may only use Drupal for the user management or the theming or the security updates. Well, that's fine. You could pretty much ignore the content management part and just go, with the user management part and the maintenance. You would write your own custom module to do this part. Maybe you've got your own database already existent with the stuff you want. Well, Drupal can do that without much pain. You just have to write a custom module. So Drupal isn't all good. What you get with Drupal, the bad stuff, is mainly a learning curve that can be frustrating at times. There are so many different ways to do things and so many modules to choose from, lots of terminology to learn. Sometimes that terminology isn't clear. Like sometimes when we say a page, we mean a certain content type. Sometimes we mean a certain display type. It can just be frustrating at times. The website for Drupal has a whole lot of documentation, but that's a strength and it's also a weakness because it's kind of hard to know where to start on all that documentation. I didn't really understand what was going on with Drupal until I actually got a book and started reading it, because the book is kind of arranged in a logical order, but when you go to the Drupal website, there's just a billion comments, a billion different how-tos on how to do things, so it can be really frustrating. Another problem with Drupal can be that there's server load, mainly load on the database. The way that Drupal is designed modularly with Mr. Potato Head is that when you call up a page from the Drupal server, every module that you're using hooks into that page request. And so each module does its own database query. So one page is going to have a ton of database queries. So compared to similar solutions, there's going to be a lot of server database load. Caching can alleviate a lot of that. And honestly, if database load is a problem, it's a good problem to have, because that means that you're getting a lot of traffic. And in the grand scheme of things, you can just add more database capacity. We might see that that's a problem on my slow little laptop here. So Drupal is pretty widely used, and its adoption rate is at least comparable to the other big open source content management systems. There's a site called backendbattles.com that crawls the Alexa top 10,000 websites and tries to detect which content management system they're using. You can see that Drupal compares, it's this blue slice here, it compares favorably to Joomla and MediaWiki, about similar. WordPress still takes the lion's share of the open source content management system. You can see that we're only talking about, it's about 200 out of the top 10,000. So probably most of these sites are running custom content management and not, or something that they just can't detect. If you want to see some of these sites that are using Drupal, you can look at this site. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name. It's the founder of Drupal. His first name is, I think, Dries or Dries, D-R-I-E-S, and he runs a blog, and he posts sightings of big Drupal sites. So we can just scroll through here and look at a few of them. It looks like McDonald's Australia is using Drupal. Yahoo Style Guide, whatever that is. Parts of Dig. And some other site. But you can see that these are big websites, and they look pretty different. You're going to see a lot of Drupal sites that look like cookie cutter. They all look the same. But most of these big websites are highly customized, and they have Christina Aguilera, they have a distinct look. USDOC. Okay, well, we've seen the big websites. Well, I can also show you some little websites. The little website, I use Drupal for my blog. It's just a simple blog. I don't want to act like it's something special. Just a little blog. I posted the last presentation I gave to the Linux user group. I've got a little contact me page and a little page with my schedule. This is just your typical blog site. I also use it in my Internet Basics class that I teach at the library. I made a little site. Let me log out here so we can see how it actually looks before you log in. I made a little site where after I give them a little class on Internet Basics, they can log in, put in their name, David Miller, and a registration code. Right now it's ABCD. No, you can see I've actually taken out the regular user registration form where you put in a password and replaced it with one where you just put in your name and you just put in your registration code. Drupal usually wants an email address, and I disabled that part too. And if they're a beginner, they can do a mouse tutorial, or if they're intermediate, they can do a little quiz. And I found a module for Drupal that lets you create these multiple choice quizzes, which then scores them at the end. So you get the idea with that. They get to take a little quiz.
Do you remember the name of that module?
Yeah, it's called the quiz module. And that's pretty fun. After they're done, they can request a certificate. And I'll just do that so you can see what that's like. It says thank you. And so while they're taking the tests and requesting the certificates, I'm up there at the front. I'm going to log out and log in as an administrator, and I can actually print out these certificates. I wrote a little module that actually generates a PDF file with their name. I'm waiting for the internet here. Okay, so I'm going to log in as administrator. And I actually wrote a little module that lets you go to this custom page here, print certs. Where Drupal actually generates a PDF, sends it to the browser, and then I could print out these nice certificates that everyone likes to get. And it's a PDF file, so it's going to print out how I want it to. Okay, so let's go back to our presentation. So let's install Drupal. It's really easy to install Drupal. The hard part is configuring it how you want it, planning your site and configuring it. But to install Drupal, all we need is PHP 5. The new versions of Drupal only use PHP 5. You can't use PHP 4. MySQL. There's talk about adding support for other SQL databases, but honestly, I'm not sure if they've made it into Drupal yet. So I just said MySQL to be safe. You obviously need to create a database, create a username and password. You need a web server, obviously. Apache works well. Lite works well. Lite HTTPD, and that's what I usually use because I actually think it's easier to configure than Apache. And you're going to want a cron server. Drupal can run periodic tasks like pulling in feeds from other sites, and in order to do that, you need to use a cron server. It also rebuilds its caches periodically, and you need a cron server to actually trigger Drupal doing that periodically. So let's actually install a site here. Get my notes. So to install Drupal, first thing you're going to want to do is download Drupal, and you do that from drupal.org. If you use Drupal, you're going to be going to drupal.org a lot. And so you can go over here to the right and download it. But I usually just download it from here. The top story always has the latest version. And this is a direct link to the tarball. And you could just click here and it would download. I've already got it downloaded, so let me go ahead and untar it. To install Drupal, all you have to do is untar the tarball into some kind of web accessible location. So I've already got it. I'm just going to untar it. Okay, and that created a directory called Drupal and the version number. And you can see that this directory actually contains an index.php file. So in other words, I could point my web server at this directory and Drupal would be running because the web server usually looks for index.html or index.php and actually